data analytics is again related to cloud. So every technology comes back to cloud. And I guess it's worth learning about it. It's worth understanding the technology because the market is super high. If you are going for a job or any perspective, a lot of companies would look for cloud expertise. So I would highly recommend to take at least one or two certifications, before you apply for any role or things like that. And that will be very beneficial. So we'll just start with the basic of what is cloud computing. Next slide, please. So today we'll be covering, can you go to the previous slide? Yeah. So today we'll be covering the what is cloud computing, how it works, the basics, the deployment models of cloud computing, the services of cloud computing, what are the benefits, why you should use cloud computing, and what are the use cases in real life world in businesses, what are the top computing cloud computing companies, and also a separate topic which is virtual machines, which was requested by the team. So that's a completely separate topic, but I thought I'll cover it, as part of this. Next slide. So, what is cloud computing? Now, simply, I would say put cloud computing as a delivery of computing services. So, whatever technology or services that a computer provides, a computing, you all must be aware of the computer science engineering, if any of you is doing something like that. So, all the services that you're providing is called as cloud computing, basically. So that service can be included as server, storage, database, networking, software analytics, intelligence, automation, and this is all over the internet. When I say over the internet, this is all on the cloud. Why we are providing the services? It gives faster innovation, flexible resources, economics of scale, scalability, and you typically pay only for the cloud services you use. So it is a pay as you go model, of course, helping you lower your operating cost, run your infrastructure more efficiently, and scale your business needs accordingly throughout the changes in the markets. And large clouds often have functions distributed over multiple locations. So it's not just one, but you can access many services from different other locations, and each locations being a data center. That is called as the data center where you store your data. Cloud computing relies on sharing resources to achieve coherence, and typically, as I mentioned before, using pay as you go model, which can help in reducing capital expenses, operating cost, and maybe also led to unexpected costs that the users are unaware of. So it's mainly the capex and opex, so capital expenses and operating expenses. So this is where the whole cloud computing model is surrounded, because that's the main area where cloud computing could be helping a lot of companies and users to help reduce these costs. Now, the group of networked elements providing services need not to be individually addressed or managed by users. Instead, the entire managed suite of hardware and software can be thought of as an amorphous, or amorphous meaning structureless, cloud. So the term cloud computing also refers to the technology that makes cloud work. Now, this includes some form of virtualized IT infrastructure like servers, operating system, software networking, and other infrastructures like abstracted using special software, so that it can be pooled and divided irrespective of physical hardware boundaries. Next slide, please. Talking about the deployment models. Next slide again. So these are the deployment models: public cloud, private cloud, community cloud, hybrid cloud. Now, not all clouds are the same, and not one of type of cloud computing is right for everyone. So it doesn't have to be like public is good for everyone because it is more secure, or private is more comfortable because it is more secure. That does not make any sense. Several different models, types, and services have evolved to help offer the right solution for your needs. So first, you need to determine the type of cloud deployment. or computing architecture that your cloud services will be implemented on. Now, there are three different ways to deploy cloud services on a public cloud, private cloud, or hybrid cloud. So you can learn more about this. What are the ways and stuffs using, some articles or cloud computing for beginners. So you will get more information on the public, private, because as I said, cloud computing is vast, and so the packages inside are really vast. And in one session or in one presentation, you won't be able to understand the whole concept. So in cloud computing, we have access to a shared pool of computer resources, as I mentioned before: servers, storage, programs, and various different activities which are on the cloud. You simply need to request additional resources when you require them, and getting resources up running quickly is a breeze, again thanks to the clouds. So it is possible to release resources that are no longer necessary or no longer in use, and this method allows you to just pay for what you use. So here comes our pay as you go model. Cloud deployment model identifies the specific type of cloud environment based on ownership of the data, ownership of the servers, scales, and accesses, as well as the cloud's nature and purpose. Why you're using cloud? What is the main reason behind using the cloud? And what is the goal that you're trying to achieve? The location of the servers you're talking about or you're utilizing and who controls them are defined by the cloud deployment model as well. It specifies how your cloud infrastructure will look and what you can change and where you will be given services or will have to create everything by yourself. So relationships between the infrastructure and your resources are also defined by cloud deployment types. Now, just an overview of what these deployment model looks like. So what is a public cloud? Now, as simple as the name look, public cloud, it's available to public. So public cloud are owned and operated by third party cloud service providers, which deliver their computing resources like servers and storage over the internet. Microsoft Azure is an example of a public cloud. With a public cloud, I guess all the hardware, software, and other supporting infrastructure is owned and managed by the cloud provider. So, which will be managed by, giving the example of Microsoft Azure, all your workloads will be managed by Microsoft Azure. You access these services and manage your account using a web browser. So you'll be given a portal, like a web browser, where you'll be managing these services or looking at these services, working on these services, and the whole background will be looked after by Microsoft Azure. This form of cloud computing is an excellent example of cloud hosting, in which service providers supply services to a variety of customers. And in this arrangement, storage, backup, and retrieval services are given for free as a subscription or as a per user basis, depending on what sort of partnership you have or what sort of subscription you have, or if you're using a pay as you go model or if you're just taking it in a flat rate. So example for this is Google App Engine, and there are many more. I just thought of this at the moment. Then we have private cloud. So private cloud refers to cloud computing resources used exclusively by a single business or organization. As the name suggests, it's very private, so it's not accessible to the whole public. Private cloud can be physically located on the company's on-site data center rather than putting it on the cloud. Some companies also pay third-party services providers to host their private cloud. A private cloud is one in which the services and the infrastructure are maintained on a private network. Now, the cloud platform is implemented in a cloud based secure environment that is protected by powerful firewalls and under the supervision of an organization, IT department, the whole security team, the infrastructure team. The private cloud gives the greater flexibility of control over cloud resources, of your own cloud resources, rather than, a third party being controlling those resources. Then we have hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud, as it says hybrid, of course, is a mixture of private and public. It combines public and private clouds bound together by technology that allows data and applications to be shared between them by allowing data and application. Actually, next slide, please. So you can also see few other stuffs written in here about hybrid cloud and private public cloud. I'm sorry, I should have said to do the next slide. But just coming back on the hybrid cloud, so when you allow data and applications to move between private and public clouds, a hybrid cloud gives you gives you and your business a greater flexibility, more deployment options, and help optimize your existing infrastructure, security, and compliances. So organization can move data and applications between different cloud using a combination of two or more cloud deployment models, like private or public, mixing them as a hybrid methods depending on what their needs are and what are the requirements of their the goal that they are trying to achieve. Then we have community cloud. Again, community is, as the name suggests, is kind of a group of organization using various different clouds. So it allows system and services to be accessible by a group of organization, and it is distributed system that is created by integrating these services of different clouds to address the specific needs of community, industry, or businesses. And the infrastructure of the community could be shared between the organizations which has shared concerns or tasks. It is generally managed by a third party or by the combination of one or more organization in the community. So it could be a group of organization or it could be managed by one single organization, depending on what sort of area that you're looking for. Then we have an extra pair of cloud which is called as multi-cloud. It is not a part of these four deployment models, because these are the main deployment models, but this is you can say a subset of all these deployment models. So multi-cloud is something where we are talking about employing multiple cloud providers. So, for an example, you have two cloud providers, Microsoft and AWS. You want to work with both the cloud providers. That's when you will be able to say that you are using multi cloud because of the multi cloud providers. At the same time, having half of the workloads on Microsoft Cloud Azure or having some of the workloads on AWS Cloud. So, under this paradigm, as the name implies, it is similar to hybrid cloud deployment approach a little bit, which combines public and private cloud resources instead of merging private and public clouds. So, multi cloud uses many public clouds, although public cloud providers provide numerous tools to improve the reliability of their resources. Mishaps still occur, and it's quite rare that two distinct clouds would have an incident at the same moment. As a result, multi cloud deployment improves high availability of your services even more, rather than as compared to the previous cloud models. So before I go ahead, I would really love to see if you guys have any questions around deployment models, public cloud, or private cloud, and all these things. So if anybody is having any questions, if you want to just raise your hand, I'll just give a minute. And if not, it's okay. I'll just move ahead. Meanwhile, Jay, do you want to change the slide, please? Great. So assuming you guys not having any questions, we can anytime encounter that later. But just talking about, so everything that comes with advantages and disadvantages, and of course all these models have some advantages. I won't be talking about disadvantages because, again, to understand the disadvantage, is very important that you understand the practicality of the approach, and then you will understand those disadvantages at a stage while using them. So just talking about advantages, which also covers like why it is really good to use public model or private model or hybrid and community. So There are few to name. Minimal investment is one of them, because again, it is a pay as you go model, or a pay as you use service. There is no substantial upfront fee, making it excellent for enterprises that require immediate access to resources. And then the other one is no setup cost, so you don't need to pay or fully subsidized by the cloud service providers. Thus that there is no need to set up any hardware. There's no cost to set up any hardware, or the infrastructure. Then there is infrastructure management cost as well, which is not required. As I mentioned before, using the public cloud, it does not necessarily require infrastructure management cost. There is no maintenance because everything is taken care by the cloud provider. Then there is dynamic scalability to fulfill your company's needs. On demand resources are readily available and accessible, provided again by the cloud provider. Then there is private cloud. Again, the advantages are better control of your property, data security and privacy. It is really secure because it is private. The security is high. You have the control of your security. The same infrastructure, improved access, and a lot of things can be achieved with private cloud model. Then there is support legacy system, which is again an advantage of private cloud. This approach is designed to work with legacy systems that are unable to access the public cloud. So we do have a lot of old systems, legacy software that we do not want to change or move it to public cloud, and that's where this approach is, really supportive. Then there is customization. Unlike a public cloud deployment, a private cloud allows a company to tailor its solution to meet its specific needs without any more requirements. Um, Talking about the advantages of hybrid cloud model, some of their benefits are flexibility and control. Cost, because public cloud provides a lot for scalability, so you'll be responsible for paying for the extra capacity if you require it. Then security, because data is properly separated, the chances of data theft by attackers are considerably reduced. And there are more benefits to it which I haven't covered in here, but again, it's really recommended if you go and explore a lot. Where do you want to use private cloud? How do you want to use private cloud? So it depends on the advantages and disadvantages when you use those. Then advantages of community cloud: cost effective, again, security is a big reason. Shared resources, it allows you to share your resources, infrastructure, etc., with multiple organization. Collaboration and data sharing, it is suitable for both collaboration and data sharing as well. Multi cloud advantages: you can mix and match the best features of each cloud provider's services to suit the demands of your applications, workloads, businesses requirement by choosing different cloud providers. Now the other one is reduce latency. To reduce latency and to improve user experience, you can choose cloud regions and zones that are close to your clients or close to your business. High availability of services, it is quite rare that two distinct clouds would have an incident at the same moment. So the multi-cloud deployment improves the high availability of your services and resources that could be used to solve that latency issue, or incidents, failures. So that's where multi-cloud could be also a benefit. Next slide, please. So the cloud computing services. Now deployment types are different. Cloud computing services are different. Next slide. So these are your cloud computing services. Well known are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, as we call as IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. What are cloud computing services? So if you see this diagram, you see the main area called as on-premises environment. That's where everything starts from. As you can see, the first stack from left, you will need to take care of everything, which is like on-premise environment. You will have to take care of everything from networking all the way up to applications, and this is the type what many of us are using today, because we are still not on the cloud, and that's why we are being, storing everything on our on-premises data center, and we are looking after everything because we have to, all our engineers and supports have to take care of every single stack. Now, next is infrastructure as a service. So this helps you to take care of some of the components starting from networking to provisioning the OS. Now, but you are responsible for the middleware, runtime, data, and application. So the most basic category of cloud computing services is infrastructure as a service. Now, with this, you rent IT infrastructure, servers, and virtual machines, VMs that we all call, storage, network, operating systems from a cloud provider on a pay as you go model. Again, the public cloud providers would be easily available to help you with infrastructure as a service. Then example of some of the example of the IaaS market is Amazon Web Services, Rackware, VMware, Cloud, Azure, etc., etc. I think these days all the cloud providers are proving to be supportive in all these areas, but these are the well-known ones. Then you have platform as a service. Now, PaaS is one level up from infrastructure as a service, where cloud providers not only take care of the components that infrastructure as a service does, but also manage the platform level components like middleware and runtime. So, what you did not achieve in infrastructure as a service, you can now do in platform as a service. Now, platform as a service refers to cloud computing services that supply on-demand environment for developing, testing, delivering, and managing software applications. Platform as a service is designed to make it easier, simpler for developers to quickly create web applications or mobile applications without even worrying about setting up or managing the underlying. So, infrastructure um, of servers, storage network, and databases that are needed for development of these application or web applications or mobile applications. Now, the example of past market is Google App Engine, Microsoft Azure platform, Force.com, etc., etc. Software as a service, as the name suggests, it is probably the most common one, as many of cloud people have been using it, unaware that they are actually cloud services. Software as a service is a method for delivering software applications over the internet. So everybody who is, a software engineer or software developer, they are using software as a service as their cloud service platform without even knowing that they are actually using cloud service model, because that's their day-to-day job, and they are not aware that they are using it on the cloud. So these applications over the internet on demand and typically on a subscription basis, with SaaS cloud providers host and manage the software application and underlying infrastructures and handle the maintenance like software upgrades, security upgrades, or security patching. So using users connect to the application over the internet, usually with a web browser on their phone, tablet, or PC. So it is available everywhere on all the devices, and it's simply, as the name suggests, it's simple to use and implement in your day-to-day life. So, for an example, the SaaS market player would be Gmail, Office 365, Google Docs. So, since you all are using Teams, you must be aware of Office 365 model and what are the other services in that. Then there's another new component that has come out, which is serverless computing, which is another cloud player. So overlapping with past, serverless computing focuses on building app functionality without spending time continually and managing the servers and infrastructure that is required to do so. So the cloud provider handles the setup, cap- capacity planning, server management, and the various different aspects for you. Serverless architecture are highly scalable and event driven, only using resources when a specific function or trigger occurs. So serverless computing is, I guess, is the future for the cloud computing. Now it's uh, been in the discussion a lot now. A lot of people are talking about serverless computing in the cloud market, and why we should use, how we should use, and what are the benefits, how we can reduce a lot of resources by using serverless computing. Next, please. Next. So what are the top benefits of using cloud computing? That is the characteristics and benefits. Now, talking about cloud computing, it is a big shift from the traditional way business thinks about IT resources. Here, we can see, I can talk about few of the turning um, point of cloud companies or cloud computing services that are benefiting the cloud organization today, using these resources in a very scalable way. So one of them that we already discussed is cloud cost. It is very cost efficient. Cloud computing eliminates the capital expense of buying hardware and software and setting up and running on-site data centers. Then we have speed. Most cloud computing services are provided um, self-service and on demand. So even vast amounts of computing resources can be provisioned in minutes, typically with just a few mouse clicks, um, giving businesses a lot of flexibility and taking the pressure of the capacity planning and the team. Then scalability or global scale. The benefits of cloud computing services include the ability to scale elastically. And in cloud speak, the means delivering the right amount of IT resources. So, for example, more or less computing power, storage, bandwidth, right when they're needed, and from the right geographic location. Then there is productivity. On-site data centers typically require a lot of racking and stacking, hardware setup, software patching, and other time-consuming IT management chores. So cloud computing removes the need for many of these tasks. So IT teams can spend time on achieving more important businesses goals. Performance, it is the performance wise, this is the biggest kind of a benefit of cloud computing, because the biggest cloud computing services run on the worldwide network of secure data centers, which are regularly upgraded to the latest generation of fast and efficient computing hardware. I i don't know if you have got any chance to visit any of the data centers, but if you get a chance to see those data centers, you'll be amazed to see how amazing the data center look and how big it is. And maybe at some point it's like completely wobbling because you won't understand what is going on because it's so mixed up. But that's where the whole computing services are running. If that's where the computers are, and that's the services or the cloud provider you are using. So you can check this on YouTube as well. You can see the data centers, you can do a virtual tour and understand. So if you want to use Microsoft Azure virtual tour data center, just go on YouTube and find that. You can see that. Then the other benefit is reliability. Then we have security. And next, please. So yeah, we just talk about the benefits of cloud computing. Cost saving, mobility, disaster recovery actually is again one of the benefits. So all businesses have this stress of losing their data, and we don't have a backup service. So of course it's data, it's technology, and which is not reliable at some point. So you have to make sure you have your data recovery option or a disaster recovery option. So cloud computing also provides the security in a perfect way. Next, please. Next. So the use cases. Now, why we need to use cloud computing, where we need to use cloud computing, and how we need to use cloud computing. So the use cases of cloud computing, these are some of the use cases to name, and I can take you through, what does each of them mean. So you're probably using cloud computing right now, even if you don't realize it. And like the Teams is again a part of the cloud computing, organizations, of course, you're using it. So if you use an online service to send email, edit documents, watch movies or TV, listen to music, play games, store pictures. So everyone knows about drives, Google Drive, OneDrive, where you're storing your pictures, files. It's likely that cloud computing is making it all possible behind the scenes. So the first cloud computing services are barely a decade old, but already a variety of organization from tiny startups to global operations, government agency to non-profits organization who are embracing this technology in one or the other reasons. Now, few of the examples of what is possible today with the cloud service from a cloud provider. So these are the few named to create cloud native applications. So what does create cloud native application means? Quickly build, deploy and scale applications, web, mobile and API. There might be a lot of developers in on this call who might know about cloud native applications. So take advantage of cloud native technologies and approaches such as containers, Kubernetes, microservice architecture, API driven communication, DevOps. When you when you start working in a cloud company as a developer, these will be highly beneficial for you because you'll be working with Kubernetes, containers, microservices every day since you are a developer and you have to work with this. The DevOps and GitHub is the management tool that you'll be using. That's how your life will be with a being a cloud engineer or cloud software developer working for a cloud company. So get yourself, if you're interested in cloud native applications, start learning, because cloud native applications again a different topic, and especially people who have interested in all of these areas like the architecture and all, would definitely benefit a lot from this. Then there is test and build application. This reduces application development cost and time by using cloud infrastructure that can easily be scaled, up or down. We have store, backup, recover data. um, as the name say, protect your data more efficiently at a massive scale by transforming your data over the internet to offsite cloud storage system that is accessible from any location on any devices. Then analyzing your data, unify your data across teams, divisions, or different other locations in the cloud. Then use cloud services such as machine learning, artificial intelligence to cover insights for more informed decision. Artificial intelligence, machine learning is another vast topic, and it's a different area that people are working, but it's all, again, as I said before, it's all related to cloud. So AI and ML is a space which is again increasing every day, and it's kind of a boom outside, and it looks like it is the future. I have a background says quantum computing, which is another level of future generation talk. I do give a lot of talk on quantum computing as well, because that is where the future is, and we will be all studying quantum in the coming future, because the organization have recently started talking about quantum, the quantum realm, the quantum universe, virtual reality, VR, and all those things. So if you are interested in these kind of things, you can, definitely go and explore quantum computing as well. Then the other use cases is stream audio and video, so connect with your audiences anywhere, anytime, on any device with high definition video and audio with global distribution. I think if it was not about cloud computing, audio and video, I don't think we would be able to talk today in this pandemic world where people are not supposed to meet physically. So these virtual platform has been proven so beneficial. We easily can do some lessons, do some tech talks, meet people online, see each other, talk to each other properly. So these are all wonders of cloud computing. Then the other one is embed intelligence. Use intelligent models to help engage customers and provide valuable insights from data captured. So chatbots and all these, you can see in a lot of websites these days. You'll see a small button that is a virtual agent or a chatbot who can help answer some of the questions that he has been trained for. Deliver software on demand, also known as software as a service. We saw what software as a service is. So on demand software lets you offer that latest software versions and updates around the customers or the clients that you're working anytime they need, wherever they want. So these are the use cases that we spoke about, and there are more. Of course, every day it changes. There are more to this, more use cases, and how you can use, where you can use. So understanding the practicality is very important. So I think I should suggest this to all the universities and organization, to whoever I talk, not the organization but universities, that they should have a course on cloud computing, because as soon as you finish your universities or graduation, and you go for masters and all, this is where you learn about cloud computing, data analytics. This is a part of your curriculum now, and that is how all it begins. So I think it's very important to incorporate these new technologies in the course as well. Next slide, please. So we'll see what are the top cloud computing companies for 2022. Next. A lot of them: Google, Microsoft, Amazon. These are the top three, which are on the head. Whenever somebody asks you what are the cloud companies, I think these are the first three companies that you'll be talking about, of course. Then OpenStack, Oracle, IBM Cloud, DigitalOcean, VMware, Alibaba, Pivotal, Cloud Foundry. So these are kind of the top companies currently in the market in 2022, who are the big cloud players, and a lot of people, work with this. So of course, why will you choose Amazon over Microsoft Azure? It depends on the services. It depends on the cost. Why would you choose Google or Microsoft Azure? Again, it depends on the services that you're, looking for. Next, please. Next. So as I said before, virtual machine is another big topic, and of course, it's a part of cloud computing. But again, to understand virtual machine, it's very important to understand the practicality of it. How does the infrastructure work? The hardware works. So, virtual machines are also called as virtual computers within computers. You can access another computer within your own PC. That is virtual machine. Um, Virtual machine, commonly we all say it as VM, of course. It is no different than any other physical computer like a laptop, smartphone, or a server. It has a CPU, it has a memory disk to store your files, and it can connect to the internet if needed. So while the parts that make up your computer called hardware and physical, they are physical and really tangible. So VMs are often thought of as virtual computers or software defined computers within physical servers existing only as a single piece of code. Now, how does this virtual machine work? So, virtualization is the process of creating a software based or virtual version of a computer with a dedicated amount of CPU. So, there will be few numbers that you have to assign in order to make your virtual computer. Then there will be memory in use, storage that will be used. You can, you know that the storage will be borrowed from a physical host computer, not the storage but the CPU memory will excuse me, will be borrowed from a physical host computer. And that physical host computer could be your personal computer or a remote server, such as the server in a cloud service providers data centers. So a virtual machine is a computer file, typically called an image that behaves like a actual computer. Now it can run in a window as a separate computing environment, often to run a different operating system, or even a function as the user's entire computer experience. So this is a common on many people's computer work. So whatever work you're doing, it is very common to use these services. in your PC or your laptop or whatever you're using. So the virtual machine is partition from the rest of the system. You'll have two separate partition, definitely, meaning that the software inside a VM can't interfere with the host computer's primary operating system. So it has to be acts as a separate operating system. And why do we use virtual machines? What they are used for? Because if you want to build and deploy apps to the cloud, you can use virtual machines. Trying out a new operating system, including some of the beta releases, you don't want to mess up with your host computer, so you can use virtual machine to explore some of the beta releases. Spinning up new environment to make it simpler and quicker for developers to run some of the dev test resources, backing up your existing OS, accessing virus infected data, or running an old application by installing an older operating systems, then running software or apps on operating systems that they weren't originally intended for. So these are kind of the use cases of VM where you can use all virtual machine as part of your original operating systems. So now, next slide please. Okay. I can share a little bit. I thought I've put the advantages slides in there, but I can share a little bit overview of what are the benefits of using VM and why you should actually use VM. So while your virtual machines run like individual computers with individual operating systems and applications, they have the advantage of remaining completely independent of one another and the physical host machine. A piece of software called as Hypervisor. Can you go back a little bit? So if you see in the diagram, this is a piece of software called as Hypervisor or Virtual Machine Manager. This makes your different operating systems run on different virtual machines at the same time. So this makes it possible to run Linux VMs, or for example on a Windows OS, or to run an earlier version of Windows on more current Windows devices. And because VMs are independent on each other, they are also extremely portable. You can move a VM on a hypervisor or another hypervisor on a completely different machine almost instantaneously. So you can definitely use two hypervisors at the same time. Because of their flexibility and portability, virtual machines comes with a lot of benefits as well. Some of them are cost saving. Running multiple VMs, virtual environments from one piece of infrastructure means that you can drastically reduce your physical infrastructure footprint, and this boosts your bottom line, decreasing the need to maintain nearly as many servers and saving on maintenance cost effectively. Um, the next is agility, speed. Spinning up a VM is relatively easy and quick and is much simpler than provisioning your new environment for your developers. Lower downtime, scalability. VM allow you to more easily scale your apps by adding more physical or virtual servers to distribute the workload. So again, it is scalable, which can be accessed by multiple VMs at the same time. Security benefits, it's highly secure because virtual machines run in multiple operating systems using a great operating systems, or a VM allows you to run apps, because since you are using multiple operating system of questionable security, and protects your host operating system. So it also allows for better security forensics, and often used to safely study computer viruses, backlogs, isolating the viruses to avoid risking the host computer. So I guess there are many benefits on virtual machines as well, as it's a different vast topic that you can definitely use to understand how the virtual machine works. And I guess some of you might be also using it to, the developers, they mostly use virtual machines, separate the booths and everything. So it's again an important part in cloud computing, when you talk about infrastructure, hardware, and all these things. So whenever you're doing any course, understanding what virtual machine is again very important. So these were the basics of cloud computing. It's not all. That's not it. There are a lot aspects to cloud computing, services, deployment models, and artificial intelligence, machine learning. These are all interrelated. So I just wanted to cover the basics because it's really hard to understand at some point, even the basics. So very important to understand, how it works first, rather than going to the practicality. Once you know the theory, once you know the basics, you can definitely understand what is, coming up front, and what cloud service providers you are interested in, how you want to understand. So choose one cloud service providers, AWS, cloud, or Microsoft. Doesn't matter, all cloud is the same. The services would be different, the subscriptions would be different, but the models are same. So if you want to, go ahead and understand Microsoft Azure, go ahead. If you want to understand Google or AWS, go ahead. Doesn't matter, you can take certification in either of them. um, and yeah, I think next slide please. So yeah, I think this was all that I wanted to share today on the cloud computing topic. I know most of you might heard of the terms before or have been working with the terms before. But if that was repeated, apologies on that. And the high suggestion is again to keep exploring these technologies because this is your future that is coming ahead of you. This is where you will be working, even though if you choose data analytics and all these areas. Of course it's a different story if you are completely choosing a different space and you don't want to be in the software industry or technical industry. But again, this is really important. Almost all the companies do ask a little bit knowledge on cloud and data, even though if you're not working for any cloud providers. But at the same time, it's very good to have knowledge on this. So thanks again, and thanks the organizing committee and chair for inviting me today.
Thank you, ma'am. Your presentation was wonderful and educating. Now, I would request our audience, if anyone has any questions, then please feel free to post them in the chat section so that we can resolve those.
Also, it's okay if you don't have any questions, so please don't pressurize yourself that, oh my god, I need to ask questions, because I've seen this many times. So it's okay, grasp this. If you want, I can share the slides. Jay, you have the slides, so if you want, you can share it with the audience, and you can go through them again, understand the topics that are in those slides. Go through them in the background, look some YouTube videos, or there are a few of the things that I've taken from the internet. So go and look them in details. You can, definitely there are a lot of websites on Microsoft Azure, websites of Microsoft Azure, that you can go and see cloud computing basic, or Google's, or AWS. So try to understand this, and see the brand. If you have any questions, reach out to me on my LinkedIn, so I can share my LinkedIn group. And I will also share my International Women in Tech group link, so if you want to go ahead and join that.
Ma'am, we have a few questions.
Yeah.
So, the first question is by Kinnari, and she asks us about, ma'am, as a founder of the International Women in Tech, what advice would you give to the women of this generation?
Okay. So I think the only advice that I give in all of my International Women in Tech talk is to every woman and to everyone out there, is to try. That's the only advice. I mean, there is a lot of thing going around, the self confidence stuff, that people do not really think that they are capable of doing that thing or getting into technology, because the tech industry is still male dominated, and a lot of female, students or graduates fear to jump in the tech industry because they think that they are not as skilled as men out there, which is completely wrong, because you are yourself undermining yourself that you cannot do it. Once you have that positive or optimistic approach towards your career, that if you want to be in this field, why not just go and try. I That's the only advice I would give. Have that confidence, be fearless, and be approaching. So there are a lot of people who are there to help you. If you don't understand anything, ask them. Don't sit back and don't feel that you won't be able to do it or this industry is not for you. Don't be scared while applying for a job. I know sometimes the job requirements are very overwhelming, and it makes you feel that this skill might be not for you. But I think when, no offense to anybody in here, but I think when guys apply, they are very confident to apply for any role. And that's why the tech industry is full of, still dominated by male, because they are confident enough to apply for that role, even though sometimes the job role doesn't match. So having the same confidence, I think you should learn this a bit from them as well. That's where we talk about gender equality, that having that confidence to apply for something or try for something is very important today. So I think girls, women, for of the next generation or today's generation should definitely start learning about the confidence and applying for anything that they feel that will make them happy if they work in this industry.
Okay, ma'am. Kinnari, I hope you have gotten your answer. The next question comes from Advait. As a cloud engineer at Microsoft, what problems do you solve on a day-to-day basis?
I don't know. I'm not a cloud engineer. Wait, I'm sorry. But so my role basically is working with partners. I am a cloud solution architect. I'm not an engineer, uh, not a cloud engineer, even though I'm a computer science engineer. But my role basically involves working with partners and helping them remove any technical blockers. So I work with partners in Western Europe and Ireland as well, and they use Microsoft technologies. So I help them remove any technical blockers if they have. And there are separate engineers in Microsoft who will sit with them implementing those technologies. So I deal with CTOs and CIOs and CEOs on daily basis. So we have our day-to-day calls, and we help towards innovation. So my job is helping them towards innovation, helping them with new technologies like AI, machine learning, quantum, DevOps, GitHubs, and all these things. So I need to make sure that I am aware of all those technologies and I have the knowledge of those products in order to help my partners and customers to adapt these technologies and build new solutions with them. So this is my role. And honestly, if you want to understand what a cloud engineer does, go to career portal of Microsoft. If you're interested in the cloud engineer role as well, look at the career portal, see what are the requirements, what does a cloud engineer do, not just in MS, in any of the cloud provider. And if you want to build your skills according to them, that will be really recommended then. And I think I already answered another question on, can you tell us about your work experience in Microsoft? Well, I think my work experience in Microsoft is amazing. It's like super helpful because I think I always wanted. I mean, who will be upset working in companies like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon? Of course, these are the big players, but the culture is super amazing. I mean, I haven't seen any other companies having the work culture like Microsoft. And it's not just because I work at Microsoft, that's how I'm saying. I knew this before even joining Microsoft. And this is like the dream coming true for me because of my International Women in Tech initiative. So Microsoft support a lot of entrepreneurship, they support gender and diversity inclusion. which is a big deal. And they do everything that they can to support female leaders as well, bring quality of diversity and inclusion within workplace. So you won't just find Irish people working with you, but you will find a lot of people from different culture and backgrounds. So which is a good thing. And I think there is a lot of space for growth in your career in Microsoft. So I am facing that currently, and which is amazing.
Ishak, I hope your question has been answered. The next question comes from Cheryl. Which cloud services do you use to automate compliance control?
Oh, so as I mentioned before, the cloud services, they are not just used, like not just one cloud service you'll be using on your day-to-day basis. It depends what sort of automate compliance control are you looking for, in what space and industry. So at some point you can use all of the three services, infrastructure, software, or platform as a service as well. So I don't have an accurate answer for this, Cheryl, and maybe it's, as I said, understanding the practicality is more important. So when you are working with the compliance control space, I guess that's when you'll understand what cloud services would be beneficial. So, having that practical approach is very important to understand the cloud services model first. So, you need to take a deep dive to all the three services first, and then you can, figure out yourself by comparing those services, that which one will be more suitable for this automation, and how you can use that. Sometimes hybrid would be again something that might be recommended. So I guess having a little bit background information on these services would be recommended first.
Okay. The next question is again from Ishak. Ishak looks very much interested in cloud. So he's asking, what courses would you recommend us to finish for excelling in this field?
uh, So, cloud fundamentals is something that I would recommend as a go-to course. There are a lot of courses on Udemy, and you can actually go to Amazon, Microsoft, Google website as well, and they should have courses free available for people out there to understand. So you can also go and explore. It's a public information, and definitely you can approach these, websites, learn some YouTube videos. But as I said, cloud computing is vast. So understanding cloud fundamentals would be something really helpful for you to understand all the different spaces. So if you want to start with it, start with cloud fundamentals, cloud computing fundamentals, and stuffs like that, because that's another course. And there are two different areas. One is infrastructure and software. So you can decide, once you understand what interests you more, is it the coding side or is it the infrastructure hardware side, then you can decide what area you wanted to go. So I did my master's in cloud computing software, even though I did not wanted to be a developer but somewhere or the other I had the infrastructure and software side pretty much in hand. So I did my master's in cloud computing software space.
So the next question is from Rohit, and he asks how does one know if cloud is right for their business?
So I think, Rohit, I already answered this question when I was answering for Cheryl. And if you are a business owner, you should know what cloud you are using, right? Because if you don't know your business correctly, you won't know what cloud you want to use. So it completely depends on what business you have and what sort of businesses you are planning to run. If you want to move all your workloads to Azure, then or sorry, I'm keep on saying Azure because I'm working Microsoft, but whatever cloud, like public cloud, if you want to move everything and you want to have all your workloads managed by the public cloud service providers, so that's when you can choose, okay, I need a public cloud provider. And if you want to run everything in house, then you can use a private cloud or whatever it is. So I guess it depends on the requirement of your business and what sort of business you are running, and what uh, you know uh, what is the goal that you want to achieve. So understanding your business first, then understanding the cloud market for second, and then you will be able to realize that okay, this is the cloud that I need for my business.
Okay, so the next question comes from Vivan, and they ask if cost is a major concern in cloud services. How would we be able to use scaling services for cutting down on costs for increased data demand?
uh, So of course, cloud cost is a major concern in cloud services. I wouldn't say in cloud services, but in companies, because sometimes the cloud market is expensive, and startups, organization, they are not ready to spend so much, and that's why they prefer on premises. So scaling services for cutting down on cost for increased data demand. That's a very vague question, and I think since I mentioned cloud services have that scalability, but it does not mean that since cost is a major concern in cloud, you won't be able to use cloud at all. So there are certain areas, there are certain space which is cost effective. So you just, as I mentioned before, the pay as you go model, you can definitely use the pay as you go model and pay for only those services that you need for your requirement, or for, as you mentioned, the cutting down on cost for increased data demand. So that's what you do. You pay for your services and you achieve the goals that you have. In this way you are solving the cost issues that you have as a company, and and this way you can increase the scalability of your data as well, where you're using. So again, everything comes back to having the information in an appropriate and accurate way. Understanding the cloud market is so important. So just having that sense in your head that I am not able to afford this wouldn't make your situation any better. If you do not choose cloud, if you choose on premises or having everything in house, I think there are many aspects of security that will come in. So if you want to save cost, then there'll be something called as security concerns, which will be a bother for you. So I guess having the information of both the areas is so important before moving ahead and taking any decision.
So we can go with one final question.
Yeah.
Um, so it's again by Ishaq, and he asks if is there a big difference between various cloud computing platforms such as Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud?
No, as I said before, all the cloud services providers are same, but the services would be different for them. So there's no big difference. Uh, when you see applying for any role, for example, because I've seen this, if you apply for a role in Microsoft and you see a job description, they'll have a small prerequisite saying any of the cloud certificate essential. So that means it's not very big different, right? And it is not. So when you're doing, like when we did when I did my cloud computing master, we had this differentiation. What is differentiate between or compare with Azure and AWS. These are the two things, and you won't see a big difference at all. There'll be minor differences that you'll have, that you'll need to understand, and the services you'll understand once you start working with the cloud. So all the cloud works in the same way. Cloud is one, right? I mean, they don't have Azure cloud is different, the services are different. Everything has public, the models are public, hybrid, whatever. The services are RAS, PaaS, SaaS, so everything will have the same thing. It's just the, maybe the cost, maybe the subscription, maybe the models would be a little different. So that does not make them a huge difference. If you understand Azure cloud, you will understand AWS cloud, and Google cloud, the basics at least, the fundamentals at least. But once you decide what cloud service provider you want to go for, like Google, AWS, you will understand their knowledge and the resources, the services that they provide. So that's the only difference.
Okay, there's one final question. Ma'am, I promise we'll end after this question.
No problem.
Uh, it is from Cheryl, and they ask, having a private cloud setup while accessing the public cloud resources, can this affect data security?
Uh, can you say the question again?
So the question is, having a private cloud setup while accessing the public cloud resources, can this
Mhm.
affect data security?
So see, data security would be everywhere. Even though if you're having a hybrid model, of course you will have concerns for data security. So I guess, yeah, I just see the question now. I was not able to see it before. So I guess the concern for security, when I mentioned the advantages and I ask you all to look for the disadvantages, so wherever you see advantages as security, you will also see disadvantages as security. Because security breach can happen everywhere, even though if it's public, private and all. But having a cloud provider is, more secure at some point. Having a private cloud is more secure at some point, right? So you data is a big concern when it comes to security. Even though if you're having a hybrid model, data will be security will be a concern. But it again depends on what sort of data security aspects you are using, right? So having a backup recovery, having proper infrastructure security, having disaster recovery in hand, having all your firewalls set up, having using the appropriate services, yes, SaaS, that also brings a huge effect on your security, which helps secure your infrastructure or your workloads.
Okay, ma'am. So thank you very much, ma'am, for resolving the queries of the audience. I'm pretty sure the cloud concepts are very much clear to our audience by now. Now I would request our chairperson, Ms. Shefali Bala, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Jay, and good evening to everyone present here. I thank you, ma'am, for taking out time from your busy schedule to enlighten us with your words of wisdom. I, on behalf of our committee IEEE-VIT, thank the entire audience for attending the webinar and hope that you all have benefited from this experience. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling months ago. We are fortunate to have dedicated student volunteers that put in constant efforts so that IEEE-VIT can bring in more events like these. Lastly, I would request the audience to please fill up the feedback forms so that we can dispatch your certificates soon. We would be happy to hear any suggestions that come in. With this, thank you so much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you in our final set of events in Voyager. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you everyone for attending this event. We have a couple more webinars on topics like metaverse and competitive programming next week and a competition known as Codager. Hope to see you all there, and please take care while filling the details in the feedback form whose link has been provided in the chat box. Goodbye and take care. This is Jaikir signing off.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.